I came in here earlier and I thought, whoa, who are these people I'm meeting with? They've sent me to a space with a scary, massive snail.
So the piece you see are from different artists. So these one here, Robby, are from our 3D artist in residence, Pablo, having a lot of fun with 3D scans, and then bring this here.
So is this a scan of a real snail thing?
I think the snail is a bit of a different, but that down there is a potato.
This is a potato. Oh, of course it's a potato.
And actually you can grab it.
Hello world, this is SpartyCast.
Hello and welcome to SpartyCast. I'm Dr. Robby Ratan, your host and director of the Sparty Lab here at Michigan State University. I am an academic, a stodgy, boring researcher, and today I branch out into a new virtual social world, hanging with some industry professionals, Sonya Seddarasan and Dr. Pierre Gerard. They are founders of Upworlds and Metaxu, respectively, and they talk to me about their endeavors to support the community of Metaverse developers and users. Upworlds provides a platform for developers to develop skills, not just spaces, to learn, for example, how to develop across platforms, not just VR chat, but also Mozilla hubs, also Altspace, wherever you can imagine people spending time virtually. You need resources, you need virtual resources, assets, spaces, rooms, and Upworlds helps these developers not just create these things, but also monetize their creations through a peer-to-peer marketplace. They also offer special events in virtual worlds. You can rent virtual worlds or commission new virtual worlds to be created through Upworlds. So Sonya talks a bit about her business and the model and the vision there. Pierre talks about Metaxu, which is a design studio. They also host events which are oriented toward education, like their design office hours, and that seems to focus largely on architectural understanding, just having a degree or the skills to develop digital games or even virtual objects is not necessarily enough to think really about the user experience in a virtual world. So that's what Metaxu is trying to help promote. They also host exhibits in their virtual spaces, live performances, art exhibits. We go into one of their virtual spaces. It really was art because it really did make me feel strange and tingly, and I not simulator sickness at all. I don't get nauseous in VR usually, but the art itself, it was cool. You're there with it. So if you can watch this episode instead of just listening, I hope you can. If you can jump into a VR headset and check it out, let me know. I'll get you a link. Shoot me a tweet, and you'll get to see the killer snail right up close for yourself. In addition to talking about what their companies are doing, we also just talked about the history and the definition of the metaverse, the understanding of the importance of user-centered design in virtual spaces, and access to art and culture in the metaverse. And then, of course, avatars. I bring up avatars and NFTs. It's always got to come back to avatars with me. And I'm also really interested personally in NFTs because that seems to be a wild space of potential economic growth, but also maybe a lot of hype. So hearing it from these people who are actually there at the front lines of virtual art development or other virtual item development that could be owned and transferred and used in kind of economic activity. That's super exciting to me, and I hope it's exciting to you. I hope you enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to Sonya Seddarasan and Dr. Pierre Gerard. You are my metaverse connection here on SpartyCast. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having us here today.
Yeah,
Great.
Thank you very much. Really exciting to have this conversation with you guys.
Yeah. So you are in the industry of the metaverse, and I'm so excited to have you on the podcast. As Pierre, you recently mentioned, you notice we have a lot of academics, people with doctor in their name, PhDs. You have a PhD, but you're working in the industry, so you get to use the title. But unlike sitting in academia and studying these things, Sonya, you're facilitating the development of the metaverse through Upworlds. Pierre, you're building it yourself. So I'm really excited to learn about what's happening at the forefront of this technology. So yeah, tell me, give me the elevator story of Upworlds, please, Sonya.
Sure. So we started Upworlds about 10 months ago, back at the end of 2020. And so Upworlds is like a peer-to-peer marketplace for metaverse builders that supports their future usage of creations. Our missions here to support like a couple of pillars. One is that we want to establish the virtual presence for these creators. The second one that we want them to build like a sustainable future, so support like the monetization system inside this new technology. And the last one is for these people to also support each other through education that eventually will lead others to follow their path into world buildings.
And what is Metaxu? Am I saying that right?
It's an interesting one. I think there is different pronunciation. I would say Metaxu with
Metaxu.
a more accent on the X. But yeah, Metaxu. But maybe I'll just give a little bit, because you mentioned about my academic title, just to give some background to what Metaxu Studio is. I did my PhD in computer science in Goldsmiths here in London, but really not really so much from a programmer, but more from a design approach. So my background is actually in architecture, and I study architecture, and I work mostly as a 3D visualizer, producing a lot of 3D models for all sort of real type of architecture and project. But I was always a bit frustrated by having to use all these tools of 3D software and even real time to create image for buildings that in somehow mostly are not always very interesting. So I went on to do that research, really to dive into the virtual architecture and see what actually we can do in this virtual world that is going to be used by people online with the avatar, and really taking all the history and the language of architecture, the tool of the architect, to understand how we can create those virtual worlds in a meaningful way, and understand also what are the effects of those virtual worlds on people's behavior when they are completing cognitive tasks in VR. So it was more from a learning perspective and an educational perspective, really, how we can create these virtual worlds that are helping people to complete the task they have to complete. It can be communication, or it can be learning some skills. So that was the study. Obviously, I think everybody knows that there is a lot of application of business application for training and simulation of VR. But then we decided, okay, more or less at the same time as Sonya 10 months ago, to say, okay, now we're going to focus on our own thing, which is the metaverse and more the online presence and the social presence use of VR. And so we start this design studio where we mostly for the last 10 months, every month we run an event. So the purpose of the event was to support the conversation about virtual architecture and to testing virtual architecture with people and have the conversations going on. And so we have the 8th iteration of that next week. And then we start to work with artists and performer to see how we can bring all this to life. But then obviously that's where I met with Sonya, and we realized, okay, we can have this conversation with the people we know, but actually Sonya came up saying, oh, I have all these people that are asking so many questions about how can we take part in the metaverse, how can we build this, and we don't have the tool. And so I said, okay, maybe we can take the conversation to her Discord server and then try to bring that conversation to life and share all my architecture skills and my co-founder as well, who's an architect, to a broader community.
So you're both entrepreneurs. You both have a passion about contributing to the future of the metaverse. And then you met at a metaverse-oriented event and moved the conversation to Discord. I've heard an argument that Discord is the closest thing we have to a functional metaverse, despite the fact that it's not really a virtual world per se. It's an interconnected network of easily traversable spaces. So the metaphor for the metaverse is there, and as it becomes increasingly virtual, so you're living the reality that you want to build virtually.
Definitely,
Kind of,
yeah. I mean,
yes. I mean,
Sonya, yeah, take on that one. I mean,
I'm glad that I did go ahead and went to that event and bump into Pierre. He was presenting about like the immersive architecture that he was building. I thought that was pretty interesting, and a lot of the people that we onboard in Upworlds has been asking a lot of this question, like, hey, where can I learn, and what can I do, like how do I start, and like I have a background of a 2D design. I was a product designer, but I'm not an architect. My co-founder though, like he's also an architect, but like he's also like I think like he's pretty young, so we need someone who's like more experienced. So when I met Pierre and then we started talking, we kind of have like an immediate connection that, oh, we support the same thing, and so why don't we just like move this forward and do this together. So that's how the whole idea of design office hours was born in Upworlds.
Because obviously as a design studio, we can do as much as we can on the business development and how we can, it takes a lot of time to find people that are actually interested by using virtual world. And so we said, okay, let's really help each other and support each other in that. And so that's how we came up to try to collaborate on building this together. I think that's really what the community needs is more conversation and more getting together to see how we can build this together.
How big is this community? I mean, the term metaverse is obviously being used globally. There's a lot of excitement there. It's been around for a long time, but suddenly people are really focused on this. So of course, there have been people building virtual assets and virtual worlds for decades as well. But now, if we just call it a metaverse community, how big is it, and what's happening with it?
Yeah, because it's really interesting. I mean, it's a good question, but it's so difficult to answer. But if you go back in time, before we even didn't use the term metaverse, isn't it? We were actually the first. If you look back in the 70s, they were already with the first computers. They were called MUDs, and they were the text-based online multi-user world. And so people were using text and were building these worlds with words. And they were interacting on those texts. There is also those books where you can choose your own path and things like that. So and then in the 90s, with a bit more graphics in the computer, they became those MMORPGs, which is massively multiplayers online role-playing games. And those in the 90s were already gathering thousands and thousands, even some millions of people. So one of the game was called Real, which launched in '96. So those were, in a sense, already metaverse. And then obviously in the 90s, we didn't use the word metaverse. We were using the term cyberspace, who was coined by William Gibson in Neuromancer, with actually a lovely definition, which is a consensual hallucination experienced daily by billions of legitimate operators in every nation. So that gives you a good definition of what it is. And yeah, it was, I think, already the community through those MMORPG was pretty vast. Now, if we look 30 years later, well, change the word, it's metaverse. Maybe it's not one metaverse, it's multitude of metaverse. And maybe, you have Fortnite, which is one. We're building our own worlds. And so maybe we can look into all the different metaverse there is and see how many users there are, and do the sum of all that to see how many people are actually using them.
So hold on. This is a question that I think is an important philosophical point, and maybe just semantics at the end of the conversation. To me, a metaverse has to be huge. It has to incorporate a multitude of virtual worlds. But if we say there are many metaverses, then it starts to become synonymous with virtual worlds, at which point the term becomes useless, right? To me, the metaverse is just as easy as the World Wide Web to navigate, right? I don't have to install a whole new piece of software that takes me 30 minutes to just set up to get into a different virtual world. I can go to my metaverse browser the same way that I go to my my web browser now, and of course the metaverse browser might be the web browser. Mozilla seems to be on that tip. But go on, Pierre or Sonya.
Yeah,
how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I would agree on that. I don't have much to say. I would agree that that's the metaverse, and then in there is multiple virtual worlds. But yes, so, Sonya, maybe you have a different take on that.
Well, I think it's very interesting when you say that metaverse is like www, and I feel that one of the vision that we see in Upworlds is that we would want people to come into Upworlds and see the Silk Road of all the virtual worlds that is being built by creators, all the virtual worlds that people can use within the metaverse, and they can find it like from there, and they can just reuse it immediately instead of being tucked inside like different platform altogether. And so for me, that is metaverse.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. But will Upworlds be connected to Minecraft one day? Maybe. And that would feel to me more or any of these virtual spaces, right? There's, with increasing operability, I think that we're moving eventually toward a singular metaverse, or at least maybe two, the Apple and the Google metaverse, or of course.
No, I agree. I mean, the operability is quite another keyword these days. I think there is obviously this vast issue of operability and technology, but I think from where we're coming here with Upworlds and Metaxu Studio is really try to take our distance from the technology and the platform, and really thinking, okay, what we need is now design proper immersive experience and content, and for that we need to think about design and spatial design even, and user experience, and so that's more this community that we are trying to address, and also coming with principles to design successful experience.
That's a great segue into the next question of how are you supporting this education for the community?
Well, I think like in terms of like Upworlds is focusing more on supporting the builders' longevity. Metaxu Studio is actually supporting them by sharing how to build, especially using like 3D UX, like how to build like proper architecture. And also I think something that this is a very early technology. I wouldn't say early, but like it's moving slowly. And a lot of this thing we just had this very interesting conversation about like all of this walls or like platform are like coder centric, developer centric. And while immersive is a very experience centric, like those are the things that is still developing at that point. And being able to help people to like to direct them on like how to build nicely would eventually lead to adoption. We believe that more people who get into the headset, and we can help to even minimize like 1% even, or like 0.1% of like any sickness because that less of less of agency, less of like how to build in a good way, that would lead to a better adoption. One person would say, I have a great experience inside headset, like I have a great experience in that world. I don't have that motion sickness because it's built like great in such a way that I understand how to that makes me navigate easily inside the worlds.
Yeah.
And we believe that by us actually slowly building like a good material to support people to build, that would be a way to start this initiative.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of people, probably young people, who's getting out of college, or they get the studies, and they probably, most of them, maybe learning about 3D game design, or even 2D graphics. But the fact that when you design for VR, it's still another way of designing, and it's probably even closer to how we would design for real life than for a 3D video game. Because when you design a 3D video game, even though it's 3D, you still design it to be played on the screen.
It's
and
a
so
third person's perspective instead
yeah,
of
exactly. So I think that there is a lot of know-how from the architecture background, and obviously not everyone want to do a master and spend 5 years to study architecture. So I think we have a lot we can share on from that side, and obviously also I've worked from architecture, but I've also for the last 10 years built 5 or 6 different VR applications. So I've learned a lot about what works and what doesn't work, and also running studies, having hundreds of participants running through the studies, and that's how you learn what works, what doesn't work in VR. And so that's what we want to share more with the community, and make sure that people don't do the same mistake, and then can build better world, better experience.
So
quickly.
if I can offer a point of summary, I'm understanding your argument here as noticing a very ironic trend. The people who are learning the skills to develop in virtual worlds are not learning the design skills to develop in virtual space. So people learning the skills in digital worlds, video games, etc., don't have the design thinking, the architecture thinking, which is actually more of a real world user experience skill. Of course, it's not exactly real world user experience skill, because you can teleport, you can fly, etc. So the interface changes a little bit, but still the visual metaphors, the 3-dimensional metaphors for moving through a space are much more consistent with architecture traditionally. Like, that's the foundation.
With our body, it's all around the body. That the VR is the ultimate medium that only works around our body and our perception, and that never happened before. So
yeah, I see. So it makes sense then that you have an architecture background, Pierre, combined with computer science, and Sonya, you have a design background. You're thinking about user-centric design in this space. So I love the initiative. I think it resonates very well with my academic expectation of what sounds like it would be successful. Of course, I have no real basis for understanding how the business side of these things work. But I'm sure you guys are killing it there too, and it seems great.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, it's a very young industry, and we kind of have to there isn't no business model. I mean, everything has to be invented, even on that side as well.
So how do you incentivize people to come and build? If like there's got to be money coming in. I notice on Upworlds you can kind of rent a space or use a space for a company event, something like that. Is that the main revenue generation, or what's the plan?
Well, at the moment, in order to support our mission, we do support a couple of initiatives. But everything that we have inside Upworlds is being built to support builders' longevity. So the first one is we have wall renting. Wall renting can go B2B, B2C. It can go it can also be like the next step of advertising, where we get our builders to build like an experience to support this kind of like if they have a logo, or some of the artists has built a music, has made a music, and then they wanted to they feel that, oh, my music could support the immersiveness of this world, and this could be the next thing of like how to advertise their music, by supporting the walls. And when people coming into the world, they basically also already tapping like the new set of market. Another way is that most of our builders, we try to make sure that we shape them in a way that they build for activity. So like a lot of the initial builders, they used to build like for games, right? So we're trying to drive that away to from like just gaming to an activity base, which is like space needs to be beautiful, but it also has to be functional in a lot of ways, and so it could support different activities. And with that, we could if the space is functional enough, a lot of other people who just either coming up into the industry, they wanted to try like a different way of virtual events, virtual activity, they can start seeing the walls and say like, okay, so this could support my my virtual events, virtual activities like meditation, like cultural events. Some of the people have been asking a lot about like travel walls. And so these builders are supporting them in that way. That's one of the way that they that we build a monetization system for them. The next thing is that a commission build, obviously, where a lot of the people who has like a specific custom wall in mind, and they wanted to be able to support their product or their service, and they're looking for a new way to engage with their new customers as well, like a product needs like a storefront, an exclusive launch, a company anniversary, like different type, and they want like, oh, I want a custom build that is accordingly to my brand. So that's where our builders also come into the pictures, and they could build these people like different stuff accordingly. And then we have the design office hours where people could learn how to build in different platforms. So most of the builders right now, they started at least in one platforms. And what we do is that with the idea of having that Silk Road inside Upworlds, I think it's nice to be able to inspire them to build in a different platform as well. So they understand about like, oh, I can build here, I can build there. So eventually, I think what we want is that to have this one virtual walls to be able to be implemented in different platforms. And lastly, obviously, advertising. We're always looking for people who has product or service and they want to embed that experience inside the world. That would go also into that to support Upworlds and to support the creators as well. So it's a very creator-centric platform.
Interesting. Yeah, and many approaches to kind of sustaining the ecosystem.
I'm sure a lot more will come. Like every day, like new things will come. Sure. Talking to different people, getting a lot of ideas from it. But at the moment, that's what we support. But ask me again tomorrow.
Hello, listener. It's me, but I'm an avatar. You probably learn about avatars in this podcast, but you can actually try them out, not just in video games, but in spaces like Zoom. I'm using Zoom to record this right now. This avatar I created with Ready Player Me. Remember in episode a long time ago, I talked to Timo Toke, the CEO of Wolf 3D. That's the company that makes Ready Player Me. I took a screenshot of myself with my camera, a selfie, I should say, and I created an avatar automatically, customized it in their app. Then I posted it in Animaze. That's the software I'm using right now. They are the sponsor of this message, and they are giving a 50% discount on subscriptions. You can try it for free, but if you want to subscribe, you enter SpartyLab as the discount code. That's SPARTIE Lab. So you can use a Ready Player Me avatar, like I mentioned. You can also upload your own VRM or live 2D models, or you can make avatars right in Animaze. For example, you could use the Doge avatar. And I don't know, I mean, it might have seemed like a strange thing at first, but Dogecoin is still making bucks. But you could use the Doge avatar or one of their very cool anthropomorphic animals, such as the Fluffo, the raccoon. Totally detailed. Look at this. It's so responsive. People use these types of avatars to stream or go to Zoom meetings or go to court cases and say, I am not a cat. There are also two-dimensional avatars like this raccoon, or more anthropomorphic avatars that aren't even animals, like this cute pandemic virus right here. Corey, the COVID. Maybe this one won't win you too many friends. I really like Kathy. She's quite a catch. You could choose whichever avatar you like. And then you could even apply some of the concepts like the Proteus effect or other phenomena related to avatars in the workplace to your uses of these avatars based on what you've learned in this podcast. And once again, if you want to try it out, go to Steam, download Animes, try it for free. And then if you want a subscription, you can get 50% off for a limited time by entering SpartyLab in the discount code. Check it out. Now, back to our conversation with Sonya and Pierre. And Pierre, you're building worlds that go into Upworlds, so you can earn through this revenue stream. But does Metaxu have a different business model?
Yeah, so we've over the last few months, we've developed, we've designed 4 main type of galleries. We call it template galleries. From different size, working with different artists and different performer. So we have a very large, we call them Meta 7, because there is 7 arms which can host different artist art piece. But that was a very big one. So then we come up with the Meta 5 that maybe we're gonna visit together shortly. It has 5 arms, and we run our last event are running that one. Where we were hosting actually one NFT artist who's producing 3D models. So that one is more hosting 3D, and I'm sure we'll see that shortly. And then we also have a Meta 2 and a Meta 1 for maybe just one artist. And so the way we're gonna do that, and we still have to update our website for that, is to present these galleries as templates that people can buy. So obviously that was the idea, and then we met Sonya of Upworlds that was exactly proposing this. I said, okay, well, we can then use her platform and put those templates there, because that's definitely one way we went to. We see that we were doing the same thing. But then what we observe that really works in VR is the performance, the live performance of an actor or a performer. And so actually next week on Tuesday, we're going to run our live event, but this time we're taking it on a pure live performance. We're working with a friend of us, which is a magician and also tarot card reader. And so we're going to have a live tarot reading, storytelling, but tarot card is just an excuse, obviously, to tell beautiful stories about people. And so there's going to be like a preview of what we think could be a really cool live performance that we can run on a regular basis, on a monthly basis, even a weekly basis, if people are actually really keen to pay for a card reading experience. So that's what we are testing these days.
That's super interesting. I hadn't really thought about the potential for interactive art, such as acting and singing and magic and tarot card reading.
That's where we have the most enthusiasm from the audience, really.
Have you ever seen, this was about a couple of months ago, so one of the creators has built a world to play Aladdin. And like, so they gather
to be inside of it?
Yeah, I mean, like the whole story of like Aladdin. So somebody was like dressing up as a genie, Jasmine and Aladdin, and they're like, whoa.
That's great. Yeah,
that sounds really cool.
I think that's definitely, there is some potential there. And obviously during the lockdown, we know that all the performer and the artists suffered a lot. So they were actually really keen to explore the potential of using virtual reality to show their art. And even if lockdown is getting away slowly, this is still a fantastic opportunity to reach out to a larger audience, isn't it?
It's here to stay, and it's in a lot more ways. There's nothing going to replace the physical activity, obviously, but in a lot of activities, like things are going to get more sustainable, affordable. That's where
And
we're going.
I mean, the VR allows us to do things that we can't do in real life as well. I mean, there is a, so for instance, the tarot card reading, the world around us will change each time you have a card that tells the story. By the space is telling the story on top of the storyteller. So that's something you can't, I mean, yes, you can do in some very sophisticated theater maybe, but in VR it's pretty convenient to just change the whole environment. So yeah,
absolutely, super interesting. So let's get into VR. I came in here earlier and I thought, whoa, who are these people I'm meeting with? They've sent me to a space with a scary, massive snail thing.
that space was for the 5th iteration of our event, and there were 3 different artists invited. So the piece you see are from different artists. So these one here, Robby, are from our 3D artist in residence, Pablo, who's having a lot of fun with 3D scans, and then bring this here.
So is this a scan of a real snail thing, or and then he like added the teeth?
I think the snail is a bit of a different, but that down there is a potato.
This is a potato. Oh, of course it's a potato.
And actually you can grab it.
Wow.
So if you press spacebar, you can, or with your hands, actually, you can probably grab them.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. I can move
Yeah,
it in and
you can
out.
change scale. There you go. So that, yeah. So
like one really nice thing, the first thing that got me very interested in this when I first talked to Pierre is that maybe coming from an experience that Pierre had, like building in a physical world, right? The spaces that he built here has gone through like a couple of iterations. So every events they do like I suppose like a retrospective to see that if this walls could could support like the proper events. And so every time that they get feedback, like it goes through like that iteration, so that like after a while it becomes like it's a perfect wall to support like a perfect activities, like the height,
yeah.
Right?
So that to take an example on this, obviously we'll have the center place here, but then we decide to go with the ribbon so people cannot fall. But then if you follow the ribbon at any time, you find yourself in front of this kind of a gate here. And actually, this is a gate that takes you, and if you follow the ribbon again, you can just go downstairs.
Oh.
And then downstairs, if you come downstairs, this is an amphitheater. And so that's where we were running the live performance.
Interesting.
And so this is an object also, you can grab it and actually you can play, and then we just play with that. So obviously one difficulty when you just have the avatar is you're not always sure if you have 20 people, you don't always know who's talking, but then you could grab one of these objects and then give it to someone and say, okay, I asked the question to you, for instance.
Oh, that's an interesting solution. Yeah.
These amphitheaters came about because we were looking to do a performance, and then again we look back into how performance were made in architecture, and it's quite obvious that the amphitheater has a long history, a successful history to produce theater. So this space is so beautiful, and it really feels. It reminds me a little bit of the Guggenheim, because everything is white and you can kind of go in circles and find your way up or down. Yes. And then, of course, in the Guggenheim, there aren't raining army shadow men. No, this is actually not any man. It's the sorry, I forgot the name. It's a very typical architect character, which actually gives the scale of the building.
Oh, I see. Interesting. So it's a commentary on architecture.
Yes. Forgot the name. I'll come back to the name later.
Sure. Yeah, no, I mean, like I like art because it makes you feel a little unusual, and the experience of being in the art and also being able to walk through the art, which of course, like I feel very guilty doing in a normal art museum. You wouldn't be able to do that, but here to just be amongst these tendrils, which I expect are supposed to be hair. It's a very different way of interacting with the art. So I completely understand why
Yeah, so
it's captivating. Go on.
yeah, so the architect Modular, that's the name of
Modular,
this,
okay.
the Modular from Le Corbusier, which is a famous architect. But so one more word, because I have to give credit, obviously, to the artist behind these monsters. So this is ON, and that's the NFT artist who producing those fantastic sculpture.
Okay. And is this an NFT? Is this purchasable as an NFT?
Yeah, exactly. So again, if you go there and you can go on the website and actually purchase. So that's the Maker's Place NFT platform, and you can click on the link there and open his page and access to his collections there. This is a great example because he's actually always bringing these objects into real place and also in buildings, and he's now creating the virtual version of the physical place with the sculpture in it.
Interesting. So he's made this in some physical medium.
And well, he's taking photos of the physical place and rebuilding, doing photogrammetry, like using the same technique we use for the column in the middle to recreate the place in a digital environment, and then he brings the 3D model in it. Well, a bit example of the grass there, for instance, and then he brings that into VR, so you can actually visit the whole space as well. So
wow, so you could buy one of these
and own the virtual place and invite your friend to see the NFT in VR.
Wow, this is really, really cool. And so are all of these artists selling their work as NFTs?
No, that's a particular example with Owen, who's successfully doing that. There is not there is not so much still doing that. So it's a whole world to explore again.
So these other pieces of art here are not for sale as NFTs?
No.
NFT itself is like a lot of the creators are still trying to make out and understand about how does NFT works like in general. So I think eventually, like in about maybe, I don't know, like 6 months down the line, I'm pretty sure we're gonna see a lot more of them.
So so let's talk about avatars for a moment, because all of my podcasts, if they don't come up, we have to get back to it. That's my research area. And then let's connect it to NFTs as well. So I imagine that there's this really cool opportunity for people to own their avatar and take it from one virtual world to another and have it be unique, maybe designed, developed by an artist. You're working on the world side, the architecture side, but what about the avatar side, and what do you see happening in that space?
That made a pretty good transition for you there. But definitely it's a very fascinating subject. Well, we're using Ready Player Me. You're probably familiar with Ready Player Me.
Absolutely.
So the avatar I'm supposed to wear is from Ready Player Me. Sorry,
most of the builders in Upworlds, like, we use Ready Player Me because we feel that Ready Player Me is well, as much as a lot of our creators and our builders are, obviously because they build a virtual world, they know how to build avatar as well. And that's great, because a lot of them, we have a lot of we have a lot of like avatar builders as well that builds for what do you call this, a VR chat. So a lot of those. But one of the reasons why we choose to go ahead with Ready Player Me is also because like Ready Player Me is now I'm doing a little bit marketing here, but Ready Player Me now supports about like 60-ish more platform, which is like eventually it can just be like your digital passport to go into any platform, and it is easier. I think every month or something, if I'm not mistaken, they're supporting like different type. They're always like working on the feature to make everything more natural, more realistic. So in terms of avatar, I personally vouch, I guess, for Ready Player Me.
But then on another note, I've been to really wonderful other world where they really took the time to build their own avatars that goes with the world. If you go in a little bit more esoteric world, more fantastic, or maybe even actually in our case, if we had the time and the skills, we could came up with some avatar that goes with the world, which would be a bit different. So but I think what I found very interesting with avatar is and again, that's the potential of VR, is depending of the world, you can change your appearance, and that should be the case, isn't it? Then behind that, there is the question of identity, and I'm sure you must have a lot of knowledge on that if you are doing your research on avatar, because that's where I really want to see how we're going to take this metaverse, is not having to sign up on every platform, have an avatar, whatever the appearance, and then come up with an identity that you can carry around into different place.
Absolutely. Like Sonya said, a passport to the metaverse, the interconnected metaverse. It's an identity. I think in some ways, at least the optimist in me wants to imagine the identity bringing your reputation with you, and that opening certain doors if you have a good reputation. So then maybe it encourages people to be a little less polarizing on the internet, a little more civil with each other, as we are in physical spaces. I can walk down the street and talk to some stranger about politics, and neither of us are going to call each other names or usually get in a fight. Like, probably not, as long as nobody's drinking. But on the internet, the anonymity is a catalyst for so much negativity right now that maybe in the metaverse you're helping to build, we can avoid through reputation systems, right?
No, that definitely.
Most of our community member right now, we encourage them whenever they sign up to a platform. We actually encourage them that, hey, we take only Ready Player Me, because we would like to have that passport, the digital passport, once they create, and then they can use it everywhere. And that means that we also give them like a digital swag that they can actually share around like their social media and other like basically any social media that says that, hey, I'm featured in Upworlds and I'm building for XX platforms, and this is like how I look like. And that means that if you suppose that you go into a certain platform and you see this person, because this is something that you build out of your face, right? So people was like, hey, I've seen you somewhere. Like I had a couple of times I had that, like I didn't know this person, and they're like, I remember you by your clothes. They didn't remember me by my face, but by my clothes. I remember you by your clothes. You came to this event. So I was like, yeah, that was me. So we just suddenly built that connection just because of an avatar.
Wow. That's great. And of course, I mean, it's so natural for humans to recognize each other by their presentation of self, and it's very exciting. Oh, everything you guys are doing is very exciting. It makes me want to stay in touch, and I hope you don't mind if I ping you every so often, check up on how the project is going, and
please, and join us to a live event as well.
Oh, I would love that. I'd love to check out some more art. I really did enjoy those art pieces. At first, I was scared by the snail. I thought it was going to kill me. I was like, this is not a fighting game, a zombie game, is it? But that's what art does, right? And it's even more meaningful when it's being sold as an NFT, part of this new economic ecosystem. I need, where do you go to? I have not purchased an NFT ever, but I'd like to. Maybe some of the listeners want to also. So where would you go to figure out what NFTs to buy and how to buy them?
I did buy one, and it was from ON on the Maker's Place.
Got it. Okay.
There are a lot of platforms today, but I personally like Binance. So
Binance for NFTs?
Yeah.
For NFTs?
For NFTs.
I thought Binance was a marketplace for cryptocurrency.
They do NFT too now.
Okay.
So that, and then like, of course, the biggest NFT market, OpenSea.
Yeah.
So
OpenSea?
OpenSea.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a lot of
SEA, the sea.
So like in any new phenomenon, and sorry, I know we're at time, but I'm so fascinated about this. So like in any new economic phenomenon, it's hard to tell what's going to have value and what won't. So in addition to the marketplace, where do you look to kind of get a sense of future value?
It's a jungle, really. There is a lot of nonsense and a lot of hype. So I think, from my understanding, it seems that Twitter is the place to be, where you can really follow people and see what they're saying and follow the community. So, but you need to be pretty active and track all these NFTs artists. A lot of debates for sure.
I think in addition of that, a lot of the things in the virtual worlds works the same way with physical worlds, which is like a lot of the social proof plays a very important role. It's almost like if I'm selling a remote control NFT, some people would just say like, what are you selling? But if like there's about like 10,000 people out there that says that that's expensive, right? Like you probably just gonna start thinking like, maybe that is expensive. and then that becomes valuable. So this is also something that we keep on rising up, we keep on raising this to our creators as well. A lot of the things that you build is needs social proof in order for it to move. So being able to build something, show it to people, reiterate, show it to people again, just like how we build product, right? Eventually we'll get to a certain point where we know that, oh, this is the one that people like and this is the one that people don't like, and whatever they like, that's going to be the value.
Yeah, that's a very important point. Well done, Sonya, to remind that. And I think that's really the process is iteration. And for us, community of builders and virtual world builders and virtual architect builder, it's all about iterating, testing, and exploring what's out there. I mean, sometimes we are, with my co-founder, we work for a week and we don't go in VR. And then we said, but what are we doing? Are we doing VR? Are we creating VR, but we don't experience what's out there? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So we always have to remind us to visit what other people are doing. And that's how we learn what works, what doesn't work.
It's a lot of trial and error at this point, but doing it together as a community, that's what makes it very easy, for at least easier for everyone to grow together.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. And you guys are not just part of the community, you're contributing to its growth. And I hope the community appreciates you. And I hope maybe this episode, if you send it around to the community, it will help the community grow further, get people more interested in building and participating in the metaverse. So thank you so much for being on SpartyCast. Thank
you so much for having us. We enjoyed talking to you.
Absolutely.
Really great fun. Thank you, Robindra.
You can call me Robby.
Robby.
All right.
No, great. Let's catch up.
Let's do it again.
Anytime.
And just to remind you, please do the survey about our podcast. If you listen to the podcast, it's at bit.ly/Sparty survey. That's bit.ly/Sparty survey, SPARTIE survey. Okay, that was our episode. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned something about the metaverse, the development of the metaverse. I certainly did. I learned a lot. I learned that the business models for participating in the metaverse are still in flux, right? Very few people are actually using NFTs, but we hear about it in the news, and there's great potential for that to support artists in virtual spaces. There's also the understanding of virtual events and how these could be an important piece of corporate culture, of education, the metaverse as this interconnected set of spaces that we can traverse with our avatars, meaning just like I can go from my lab here to the classroom where I'll be teaching in a half hour. I can jump between these virtual spaces that are designed specifically for the architectural needs of whatever's happening in those spaces. And maybe the virtual experiences will be even better than what we have in physical spaces. Maybe there will be ways to kind of enhance the social interactions, the communication that happens in these spaces. It is super exciting. I'm thrilled to have this connection, and I'm going to stay part of this conversation with these two guests, but also hopefully with the larger community. And I hope you do too. Join the Discord channel, join the events that Metaxu and Upworlds put on. And even if you're not a developer yourself, you can, even if you don't have a VR headset, you can still get into many of these worlds. Mozilla Hubs, just check out Mozilla Hubs. Jump into it on your computer, even your smartphone. You can get into a virtual world like the one that I experienced today in this episode and walk around, and it might not have the same killer snail in it. Or maybe if you want, I can get you access to that too. Shoot me a message. But I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I hope you come back to SpartyCast next time.
Thank you for tuning into SpartyCast. Goodbye, world.